Today we're going to do a video on how to install our hot coat. This is a product that comes in black and white, whichever colors suit you, and we're going to show you every step from beginning to end. So now what we're going to do is add the tensioner, and because of this porcelain insulator here, we don't have to worry about insulating our post, because this is all going to be hot, but the porcelain is going to take care of that. So we can use wire. Just tighten that up nicely. Spin that around a couple times. Okay. And then just set a staple to height. And come along, nice. Whatever's comfortable to work with. Now we will be able to tighten our fence without having to worry about our post grounding out. So what we're going to do now is take a little bit of the plastic off at the end of the wire. Just move your cutter around gently, and that cuts the plastic, and then it slides right off. The reason we're doing that is it gives us more room on the tensioner. If we leave the plastic on, it ends up taking up too much room. So now we put this wire into the hole that keeps it in place, and then we use a 3/4 inch socket. And then we spin that. Right now I'm just spinning it for 1 turn, just so that I can tighten my wire as I'm working with it, and then I'll come back and take all the slack out. So what we're showing here is this wheel that the wire fits onto, and then these pegs come up and around and hold everything in place. If we don't use the wheels, the wire goes all haywire on us and it becomes a big mess. So what we do is we'll usually count to see how many posts we have within our fence line, and then we slide on the insulator. So these insulators, they just slip on. And then, so you've counted the number of posts that you have. You slip on the same many insulators. And if you're going around a corner, you'll need a insulated corner that looks like this. It can take a lot more tension. So we'll show you how to tie this to the post with wire. So for this product, there's a couple of different types of insulators. These are your more inexpensive ones, but sometimes you get to a point where you need to be a little bit further away from the post so that we're not touching the brace wire here. So I'm just going to take this and slip it on, and I'm going to bring it here and just gently tap this into the post. Okay, so now we're going to do an inside corner here. In the beginning we showed you how we slipped this corner on with the insulators. And the reason we're doing an inside corner is we can go around the outside, but then the horses tend to get into the bracing wire. So to protect that, we just put some wire around the post. And because we've already slipped this on, we can just come here and wrap this wire around. And there's going to be a fair bit of tension in the corner, so I like giving it some extra support. And then we continue on with the other insulators. So now we ran out of wire on the one roll, so we're gonna join another wire. So what we did was strip this piece of plastic couple inches, enough to fit a couple of crimps on, and we're gonna slide this rubber housing over top, so that once our crimps are on, we can bring this back and cover it up so it won't be visible. There's actually a fair bit of tension on this wire, so we're going to use 2. This is one way of doing it. At System, we also sell a connector that we slip on. So now we'll bring this slide it over here, and then you can't even see the joint. So now we're ready to nail the wire on. And these are all the insulators that we pushed onto the wire when we started, before we hooked it onto the tensioner. So now we just come along, set this in the middle of the post. And just snug the staple up. You don't want to crush this wire, because after all the nailing, you're going to come along and you're going to put the tension on the wire after you've nailed these on. So if you crush them too hard, it's too hard to do the tension. And what we're going to do is, we're not going to, before we put on the tension, we're just going to nail every 6th or 7th post, so that we have less resistance to tightening. And then when the tension's all good, then we can come back and complete the nailing process. Now we've cut the wire off approximate length. You've seen how there's slack in all the wire. So what we're going to do now is strip this plastic coating right off, so that gives us that extra bit of room on the tensioner. So again, we put it into this hole, give it a little spin. Then tightening it up as you go, and as you're doing this, kind of go back to your corners and gently tug on them, so that not all of your tension is coming from your right here. Let's go back to the corners. So what we want to do here is, if you have a hand, if somebody's helping you, if you're doing it on your own, instead of trying to stretch this just simply with the tightener, if you come along and yank on this, and depending on the temperature, if it's really hot, it can kind of get stuck in here. So if you just give it a good yank, go back to your tensioner, take out the slack, and do that a couple times, you end up with a really tight fence line. So thank you for watching this how-to installation for our hot foot fencing. Hope that it was helpful.